good evening. Yours truly, Dr. Pierre, favorite board certified internist. Welcome to another episode of The Real Physician Reacts. If you can peep the graphic behind me, to my podcast listeners, I am posting a graphic of an article that is titled "Vaccine Scientist Says Anti-Vaxxers Stalked Him After Joe Rogan's Challenge." So we are going to talk about that, but we're not going to. Let me start off by saying, and y'all know me, especially those who follow me, know that I tend not to give those who are not experts much credence, right? So you're going to kind of see where I'm going with it in regards to this Joe Rogan, Dr. Hotez and RFK Jr. debate, right? Or supposed debate. Or I'm not even saying supposed debate because they were never going to debate because Dr. Hotez was like, no. And he is 100% correct in that. And I just want to give some background on who we're talking about. We're talking about probably one of the most foremost experts in regards to vaccines. And in fact, let me just spit out who Dr. Hotez is, because I don't know if a lot of people recognize it. He is the Dean of the National School of Tropical Medicine, Professor of Pediatrics in Molecular Virology and Microbiology, right? So he's the dean of that. Versus, and this is who, listen to who they want to debate him. They want him to debate a person who was already listed on the disinformation dozen. If you're familiar with the disinformation dozen, we've talked about this. This was a list of 12 people that they came up with during the pandemic that was responsible for 2/3 of the misinformation, total, right? 2/3. Give me a second. So you have one of the 12 people who is responsible for 2/3 of misinformation versus someone who is a dean of a college, dean of molecular virology and microbiology. If that don't scream like these resumes should not be talking to each other, I don't know what is. But because it's social media and because of how social media acts, there are going to be a lot of people who really feel that this is some equal ground, or that the doctor, the expert, should be stooping down to this person's level just to have a conversation. Just to have a conversation. So for those who may not know, right, especially if this is news to you. So earlier this week, Spotify was called out again, because we've called out Spotify quite a few times. But Spotify was called out again for allowing those who are spreading misinformation, disinformation to just do it all willy-nilly on their platforms. In particular, in association with this guy, Joe Rogan. He's good for it. So they called him out. And our expert, again, Dr. Hotez, this guy right here, called him out and said, "Yeah, this is what Spotify does. I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised," essentially. And Joe Rogan, again, who's a podcaster, says, "Hey, I'll give you $100,000 to your charity if you come debate this guy right here." So again, imagine if I'm Dr. Hotez, right? First of all, that couldn't be me because I'd be a lot more blunt in my responses. He's good. There are some people, I always say, in medicine, there are some people that we need them in the positions that they're in. Because if they put the wrong folks in those same positions, we're not going to operate the same. And the reason why I say that is because I think a lot of people, especially when people think about scientists, when they think about physicians, healthcare workers, they think of this kind of glossy, pristine picture and polite and everything else. But what I will tell you is that we got a lot of us in our field who are about all energy that you are giving. So if you are giving negative and, mean-spirited type energy, we are about giving you that right back. But you have a lot of us, right? Like Dr. Hotez, who's like, nah, I'm going to take the high road. I'm going to say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to debate this guy right here who was on the disinformation dozen. I'm not going to stoop low enough to debate this guy because I don't want people who may be passing by, right? I don't want people who may be passing by thinking like, oh, these two must be on the same level. since it's a debate, because that's what happens, right? For those who don't know Dr. Hotez's resume, and maybe they don't know RFK Jr.'s resume, you may walk by and hear, oh, they're going to debate. Oh, there must be equal footing, right? They must be people who, intelligence-wise and expertise-wise and knowledge-wise are the same, and maybe they're coming at it from different positions. No. This is a person who should not, and I'm talking about RFK Jr., this is a person who should not be on that stage with him. So Dr. Hotez is like, hey, I'm not going to stoop low enough to talk to this guy right here, because we already know he's full of misinformation. And again, for those who may not know about RFK Jr., let's just talk about some of the disinformation that he's responsible for. During the pandemic, he shared a conspiracy that 5G cellular towers was responsible for the coronavirus. He insinuated that the COVID vaccine led to many mysterious deaths, including one of Hank Aaron. He's been on this vaccines cause autism, which we've got out of there that has been debunked for almost 2 decades now, but of course we're still, having to deal with it. So when you have a person where, hey, I'm an expert, right? Virology, microbiology, I'm a dean of medicine, and you want me to debate this guy, I'm going to feel insulted. I'm going to feel insulted. Hey, Leela, how you doing? Good friend of mine says people asking her wild things in person. They do it. They're wild, right? So I'm going to feel insulted if you're telling me that I should come on your show to debate this guy. This guy should not be on the show with me. So Dr. Hotez is like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to debate this guy right here because he should not be on the stage with me. But I will, guess what? I will go on your show and educate your community, because you seem to have a big community who want to be educated, right? And then you have the likes of Elon Musk holding out of this conversation there. And a couple of other people kind of chiming in, trying to egg on this guy right here, our expert in the field, to not force him, but kind of socially embarrass him for not wanting to take up this debate with, again, a person who should never, ever be in his presence in regards to a discussion like vaccines and, efficacy and everything else associated with it. And it don't stop there. And this is the problem I be having, right? And I always take, especially obviously, before my time, I always take before my time where us experts, right? Us experts in the field, us scientists, physicians, healthcare, we're all those epidemiologists, public health folks, the experts in the field, what we used to go in thinking hey, you know what? There's people spreading misinformation out there, but we don't think it's going to catch on. Because we don't think it's going to catch on, we are not going to give them the energy needed to kind of stamp that out. And because we did not do that, we allowed the RFK Juniors of the world, like I said, there's a whole bunch of them. Again, don't believe me, just Google disinformation dozen. That's just 12 of them. There's a lot of people out there. So we allowed them to grow. We allowed their audience to grow. And now you have this consistent group and consistent audience of people who are just anti-truth, anti-science, anti-fact. So imagine if you are on the side of facts and truth and science, and someone wants to say, hey, we should go on a debate stage to argue against the facts. You don't even know how to process it. How do you argue against 1 + 1 = 2? Right? This is what the scenario is. I'm saying 1 + 1 = 2. Someone out here is saying that is incorrect. Let's debate about it. No, we are not going to debate about it. Right? No, that's not going to happen. So this is where we get to this point now, where you have people who are upset because our experts aren't going to give these people who are not experts the time of day. So guess what they do? They go to this person's house. Now, again, shout out to Dr. Hotez, right? This is a very good guy. Very good guy right here. Because if these anti-vaxxers would have walked up to the wrong person's house, something different could have happened. something different could have happened. Fortunately, right? Oh, let me see. We got. Let's see if we can. I can definitely do that. Perfect. Fortunately, Dr. Hotez, right? Again, like I said, God puts people in the position that they need to put them in, because if the wrong people were in those positions, it'd be trouble, right? Like, it'd be absolute trouble. So thankfully, we got our good guy here. Our expert says, hey, you know what? I'm going to take the high ground. I'm going to, first of all, push away this idea that there should be any debate. I don't care how much money you offer, but I'm willing to come on the show. And then he's socially embarrassed, there's an attempt to socially embarrass him by, again, Joe Rogan, who's probably the biggest podcaster in the, if not definitely the country, maybe even the world. I don't even know, but I know he's huge. You have the CEO owner of Tesla and what else? What was he? Oh, Twitter, obviously. Twitter, who's jumping in, right? I even saw an article that Aaron Rodgers chimed in. He's big anti-vax, right? He was one who lied about being vaccinated. That Aaron Rodgers. So you have all these people here who are trying to put this social pressure to get our experts to talk to people as if they're on the same stage. And I'm, for one, and I am so glad that he gave no bit of energy to the discussion. I'm so glad that no energy was dedicated to say, all right, you know what? I'm willing to come to it. Because that's what, because of course I'm watching the comments. All of the comments are talking like he should, feel happy that Joe Rogan is willing to put up money so they can bait the debate. Like, that's what the comments are going. And again, it's usually from the uninformed, right? Or those who are just anti-vax, right? But because they're, how are we going to say this? Because they follow, right, these anti-facts and anti-truth principles so much, the anti-vaxxers, right? They feel empowered enough to go to this guy's home. They feel empowered enough to go to this guy's home and say, hey, you should be debating this guy right here. Right? That's what's, I think, mind-boggling to me. And when I think about, especially with, COVID, obviously COVID is what a lot of people talk about. But of course, we've been dealing with misinformation and disinformation, for as long as we can remember. The biggest one obviously is with vaccines and autism and everything else, right? So dealing with misinformation is not new to those who are on the side of facts, right? It's just not new. But what's new is the fact that you can spread misinformation and it go out so quickly, and the virality behind it can happen so fast that you don't even have time to catch it. So even if you follow like I said, on this TikTok, I follow some of the best experts, right? The best experts. And even they can't make a video quick enough or fast enough to get ahead, right? To get ahead in front of all of these misinformation that's coming at them from different angles. Right? And I think that's where the issue lies, where when you have those who operate from a position of, misleading people, who operate from a position of wanting to get financial gain in your lack of trust of us, healthcare workers, medicine, science, whatever, you tend to have issues where the RFK Juniors of the world can say 5G, right, is a result of coronavirus, and no one on their side is like, oh, okay, like, all right, he's kind of wild, right? Like, no one could do that. So that's I think the interesting and sad thing for us, right? Especially for, our folks who are on the side of educating the community. And it could definitely sometimes be disheartening when we see how much energy comes from their side. Right. Like, I think that's the troubling fact. But I'm glad that the stalkers who happened to show up at Dr. Hotez's house, because they showed up to his house, didn't try to harm him. Definitely glad about that. I'm glad that they also ran it to the right people, right? Because again, like I said, fortunately they ran to Dr. Hotez, and he's like, get from around my house. They could have ran to the wrong person, and then we'd have a whole nother discussion. That could have easily occurred. But it just lets us know that we still have so much work to do, right? And again, I've talked about this, how even though the world, right? Let's just say, even though the world has kind of tried to go in their next phase of COVID and living with COVID and dealing with COVID, we still have to be, again, we folks on the side of, just facts and reading and everything else, we still have to be very active in our approach in suppressing the BS. like we have to suppress the BS, because if we don't, right, like, they're allowed to go on the biggest podcasting platforms in the world and just spit out BS, right? And again, I know this guy, I guess he's running for president. Like I said, I guess he's running for president, and during his monologue, he was just spitting out lies on top of lies. And even the past couple of weeks, I've been dealing with one of the former huge anti-vaxxers who passed away, Dr. Pierre, rest in peace, who passed away. But even on his deathbed, he was like, it was due to the COVID vaccine, or people who mysteriously jabbed him with the COVID vaccine. I don't know, but he blamed the COVID vaccine in one way, shape, or form. Like, we still have to have as much energy in squashing misinformation as we did when COVID first came around, because these folks are still, unfortunately, there. These folks can't wait to blame something on COVID, on the vaccine. And again, it's COVID has been so interesting to me for a couple reasons. One, the fact that this response that we've gotten from the beginning, where you saw that people were like, all right, yeah, I don't know about this COVID. I know it's this new disease. It's got to be man-made. It's got to be government plot. And then when you get the treatment options, I've never seen people so vehemently argue for the disease. Like, this is what they do for COVID. There are a lot of people who are arguing that the disease process is not as bad as getting that vaccine treatment. Like, that has probably been the most mind-boggling aspect. And again, I tell people when it comes to the technology, especially I'm talking about Moderna and Pfizer's mRNA technology, that, like, if the COVID vaccine is what got y'all, again, when I say y'all, those on the other side, like, going crazy, if I were y'all, I would not do a search for mRNA vaccine technology in the future. I would not do that, because like, if y'all think we are doing things now, oh man, like I said, and I'm not even, like I said, I don't want to, because like I said, I know, because one, I know y'all don't read, right, and two, I know that if y'all started reading some of the things they have planned for mRNA technology in the future, y'all be through. Right, I'll be through. So let's get to discussion. First of all, thankfully for Leela's been muting people left and right. I appreciate you. When I go on our little introductory rant just to kind of get our information out there. And I know it's tough, for my moderators, because especially when we talk about COVID, because what typically happens. Because, we do this every week, Thursday. We do this every Thursday. Last couple Thursdays, I apologize. I've been out of town both Thursdays, which is so weird because I usually don't go nowhere, but I've been out of town. And so we didn't do it. But I knew we were going to talk about COVID. So typically what happens is I have to take off a lot of my keyword blocks. I have a few words that are blocked on my normal times. But, when we're talking about COVID, I got to let those keywords fly. So that's why we're getting a lot more people with a lot more energy, especially because, and for those who may not know, and like I said, because I've been on the side of Dr. Hotez, not when no one running up on me, thankfully, not no one running up on me, but when people like are flooding your mentions and your socials because you talk bad. Because I got episodes where I've talked about Joe Rogan. I've got episodes where I talked about Dr. Pierre and a whole bunch of anti-vaxxers, and every time I talk about them, like their legion somehow finds that content. Now, mind you, when I'm talking about them, I'm usually talking, and I want to talk to my audience of those who like are for truth and, are, pro-vaccine, pro-medicine, pro-science, but somehow that other side always finds the content. Always, I don't know how it works. It just always finds the content. And then when they find it, because they don't know any better, they share it like it's nobody's business. So imagine like the people who absolutely hate what I'm saying can't wait, right, to share it and comment and share it and comment it, which means more people see it, which means more people share it. Like they don't even understand like how that works against them, but they still do it. Right, like they still do it. Like, whatever. What can you do? So let's see if we can get some questions. And again, I am so glad that Dr. Hotez was like, I'm not debating you because you are not on my level. Right. So appreciative of that, because it needs to be said. Because, and I talked about this time when I was on Clubhouse, where you had this lineup of just virologists, microbiologists, public health experts, people that would make me look like Barry, get up out of here. Like people who make me look dumb was on a panel, and it was mixed in with people who were clearly like, non-science and everything else. And they were arguing against the experts. And I'm just sitting here watching in like horror that the experts were having to like listen to people who clearly did not know what they were talking about. But because they said it loudly and they were getting cheers, like people were going crazy for them. And I said, all right, never again. Never again. That's why I started this series that I do. This series that I do right now, I actually post on my YouTube page. It'll be on there tomorrow, as well as on my podcast, Real Physician Reacts, right? Because I was so upset that my experts were allowing people who should not be on the same stage with them talk. I was so upset that I was like, all right, now I'm going to, and I knew because, again, they're like, and a lot of my friends are more like Dr. Hotez. They're nice. They're going to take their punches. They're not going to really say nothing. Me, I have time and energy, right? I got time and energy to not only rebut what folks be saying, but do it in just as a mean-spirited way as I can to return some of the energy they give me. All right, so let's see, make sure we don't miss any questions. Oh, yeah, Leah's been working because I'm seeing a lot of just craziness. And again, like I said, we're in the year 2023. There's people who still can't wrap their minds around the efficacy of the COVID vaccine. And that's a conversation I stopped having like a year ago. I don't even have a conversation of whether the vaccine works. Like that, I stopped having a conversation a year ago. I make people tell me, if you don't think it works, tell me how 1 billion people got the vaccine. Right. Show me your history, your association, your facts associated with 1 billion people getting a vaccine. Of course, there's different vaccines, but 1 billion people got it. Right. And you don't see this mass exodus of injury and deaths and everything else that you keep our employed claiming. So let's see here. Oh, my God. So I'm going to talk about blood clots and like I said, and you know what's interesting, right? What's interesting about the anti-vaxxer crew, right? What's interesting about the anti-vaxxer crew is that when you put the onus on them to prove it to you, it's a total wash. There's no information that comes out. There's no sources that they come. And I think a lot of them don't even realize how much they parrot the same talking points. So what's been happening is that once you learn how to combat talking points from one anti-vaxxer, you know how to combat the talking points of thousands. And they may say it in a different way, but they usually come to the same conclusion that you're able to just kind of bat away like, oh, this is the excuse. This is the excuse. Like I have so many old videos that I got to the point where when people post comments, I just take their username and then I just tag them in an old video I did. Because that is how often they regurgitate the same stuff over and over and over again. Someone says the equivalent of arguing with kindergartners. Yeah, that's true. Because when you're talking to people who, again, and when I say, I don't want people to take it mean when I say on your level. I'm not saying that you have to be, again, like Dr. Hotez, right? I'm not like Dr. Hotez, right? I'm not saying you have to be at his educational level of expertise to have a conversation. I'm just saying that you can't come up with facts that combat a person like this and think your facts are going to hold any weight. That's all I'm saying. If you have questions, because a lot of people do, even the year 2023, a lot of people have questions on, interesting enough, which is going to sound weird, more people have questions on the vaccine than they do of the disease. Sounds very weird. It's weird to me, but it is true. More people have questions on the actual vaccine, the treatment of it, but they don't ask a lot of detailed questions about the disease. Like what? And I just tell people all the time, like, just do a search, just on TikTok. You don't even have to go to Google. Just do a search for long COVID on TikTok and see just the amount of people who pop up, right? The amount of people who've gotten COVID and still to this day dealing with the effects of COVID, right? If you don't think it's real, then talk, like explain that to me. That's all I say, right? So I am very big on putting the onus of truth on the anti-vaxxers. And because they don't have it, or they don't even know how to get it, which is usually true, like it usually comes this run around where they're kind of stumbling, which I love. And again, and I specifically, and I think, in fact, I did a video like this. I am specific when I say anti-vaxxers. I know some of y'all may be like okay with getting the hepatitis B vaccine and everything else. I know a lot of y'all are okay with that. But I want to make sure that you know I'm calling you an anti-vaxxer, because I didn't want you to have to prove to me why the COVID vaccine, whichever one you choose, is the bad one. Which, again, going back to what we talked about, typically, doesn't happen because they don't know. Let's see here. Oh, hex girl. Oh, hex girl. Let me see. I would always use Netamod. I see. Oh, let me see. Make sure I get. First of all, let me follow you. We're adding some mods out here. Like I said, I appreciate y'all. All that I got created 4 years of a disaster and illegitimate pregnancy. Oh, for those who know, I also have had to mute President Biden from my live streams, right? Because even though, right, let's walk down memory lane with me. Even though the COVID vaccine was formed and created with Operation Warp Speed, which was created by the president who's been impeached twice, who's under indictment as we speak, who's gotten a sexual assault, like even though that was the guy who created the COVID vaccine, and not to say created, but like it came up in his tenure, people are like fast forwarding it and only putting it on Biden. So I've gotten to the point where I have to mute the word Biden, right? So they find different ways to say Biden. But like, so again, mind you, right? If we're just thinking about timeline wise, the guy who is responsible, right? The guys who are responsible for getting the COVID vaccine as quick as we got it, you know what? He did something right, right? Is that guy. But they never seem to mention that. Again, I don't even mention. They never seem to mention that guy. It's always Biden. Now, I will tell you that even though that other guy, the one who's been impeached twice, who's getting indicted right now because he was like, we don't know what he was doing with our government secrets. I won't insinuate. Even though that guy was the one who started Operation Warp Speed, which I always thought was a terrible name, Biden had to come through and say, all right, you're doing it wrong. This is how you should do it. And for some reason, like the anti-vaxxers put all of the blame on President Biden. It's a very weird situation here that has this. Yeah, so I'm saying I don't know anyone who has regrets not getting the vaccine. I don't even, and this is what happens for all vaccines. Once you get it, right, you have to be almost reminded that you got it. You almost have to be reminded. Like for example, let's say the flu. I get a flu vaccine every year, and every year I got to remind myself, like, oh, when did I get that flu vaccine? Like for the people who think that when we get the COVID vaccine, it's going to be this like lingering monkey in our back that we have to worry and think about and ponder on a daily basis. Like it's just more like again, they think about, again, it's weird, but the anti-vaxxers think about the COVID vaccine way more than the people who actually get the vaccine. Way more. Like I said, I can't even, like I have to look on one of my my vaccine cards to remember even when I got it last. Like that's how long it's been. And that's how inconsequential it's been in my like daily activities. But those who are anti-vax, they can't stop thinking about it. That's all they think about. The vax, the vax, the vax. Oh, someone says, I want to get a MPH or public health occupational degree because of you. Oh, I appreciate it. Those who don't know, I have a master's of public health. My thesis was on program evaluation. But I've always tell people that my public health degree has opened my eyes up so much more than what even my medical degree did. That it just allowed me to kind of just look at disease processes and the way it affects communities at a much different rate than just my medical degree, right? So shout out to Team Public Health out here. Let's see. Oh no, I appreciate it. Now, COVID hasn't gone anywhere. Someone asked, is COVID back? No, it hasn't gone anywhere. Numbers are still there again, but it's and we don't have to belabor the point. It just becomes a point where when you have the state agencies who are supposed to report the numbers aren't reporting the numbers, and it just becomes a data issue. Like a lot of people, like for example, like I like to when I think about Africa, right? Like a lot of people say, oh, there wasn't a lot of COVID cases in Africa. Like a lot of people really believe that. But like, if you think about it, like who would be keeping track of those cases, right? Which agency out there is keeping track of those cases at a rate that you'd be confident to say like, oh yeah, nothing's happening out there, right? Like, it just is what it is, right? So yeah, right now we're just, we're not getting fed the numbers out there. So we kind of have to kind of postulate, I saw some people, they were doing it, they were checking like the water supply levels, and like you have to kind of do those types of things when you have a whole country is like, all right, guys, we're moving on. Let's keep it moving. Like now we're not saying those numbers no more. We're going to change our parameters to tell you what's a high risk population, low risk population. Like it's just going to happen. Someone says they lost a family to vaccine. Sure they did. The people who say that are always the funniest, right? Because they always know someone. They always know someone who had, the most tragic situation associated with the vaccine, right? Again, and I don't even have to waste my time and go on the aspect of which vaccine did they get? Was it the first dose? Was it the second dose? What type? I don't even go. I just say, oh, sure you did, and I just keep it moving, right? Because again, I talked to a lawyer friend of mine who talked about the level of, again, debate per se that those who don't have the facts tend to do is that they give you like this word salad of misinformation, right? They say 10 things that are just absolutely false. But you're trying to process the fact that, wow, this person just said 10 things that don't make any sense to me. So you go to attack, point number 1 through 4. But because you don't attack 6 through 10, someone on the side is going to say, oh, 6 through 10 must be true. Right? Like, so it becomes very difficult when you're talking to people who don't operate in good faith and who operate in a way where they word salad misinformation and disinformation, that you have to stop and say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. A perfect example, I know a lot of people have been seeing the TikTok with Gavin Newsom, the governor out of California, and Hannity, right? And a lot of people are just talking about how amazing it was and how it's because he would not let Hannity slip with nothing. Like Hannity say something crazy, boom, I'm answering that crazy point. We're going to go to the next one. You say 3 things crazy, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 and answer all 3 of those points. And when you're talking to people like that, again, a lot of them are on the anti-vax side. When you're talking to people like that, if you don't do it that way, which seems kind of argumentative, which seems like you're interrupting. If you don't do it that way, then you allow their lies to kind of run, right? Our guy, again, the president who's been impeached twice, right? Who's got an indictment like running as we speak. Like he does a great job, just word salad of lies. And if you don't like tack them all, you're in trouble, right? That's typically why when he goes to speak, you have to do a whole nother show after he's done speaking to debate every single one of those lies. right? Like you have to have a whole 30-minute segment after his lies because he's put so much that they're just keeping track. Like, okay, we're going to get out that. All right, we got to talk about that. Oh, we got to like this is what you deal with when you're dealing with the anti-vaxxers, right? So you got to that's the type of energy that you have to give them up. Let's see here. We run for predator too, funny. Yep. Yeah, like I said, this is excerpt. So this person says expert who won't have a public debate about the subject they're expert in. Yes, right. I'm pretty sure they're willing to have a public debate, but you gotta be on that person's level, right? I'm not having a debate with a person who's not on that level. So that's why the expert, and you could take off the quotation marks because he is the expert, right? Like you could remove the quotation marks. You don't need quotation marks there, right? Yeah, in fact, you don't need quotation marks on both parts of the expert, right? He actually is an expert, right? He's one of the people that I'm looking at and say, oh, what is Dr. Hotez saying, right? Like that's like the type of expert he is in. So trust and believe. You could have a public debate, but you want to kind of having people who are equal footing, right? And I can assure you that a person who's a part of disinformation dozen who thinks that 5G is responsible for the coronavirus is not. That's not the person that we need to be worried about. That's too funny. Exactly, yes. I'm not debating a dude about the reality of being a woman, right? So shout out Leah. He doesn't need to debate Rogan. Exactly. He does not. Again, no, we do not. And could you imagine, right? Could you imagine if he said, yeah, I'm going to go on there. And so now he's having to deal with one person who is not on his intellectual level, talking about stuff he shouldn't be talking about. In RFK Jr., then Joe Rogan's gonna chime in, right? And this is the guy who was like on team ivermectin, right, forever, a drug that the company who makes ivermectin, who makes money from ivermectin, say, hey, do not take ivermectin for COVID. It do not work. And to the point where we've had to have multiple, and I mean to the point where I keep getting surprised every time I read about another article that check to see. It's as if they forget. They're like, oh, let's just see if ivermectin might work, and this is nope, it don't work, right? So a drug that has been like batted around multiple times to say it don't work against the COVID-19, like keeps getting chosen. Again, this is your guy. Right? Like there's I don't know if a lot of people remember, a lot of people were running to ivermectin, that horse dewormer medication, right? Because they were running away from the vaccine. They would rather towards a medication that helps take worms, and again, I'm being very simplistic with it, against horses, right? Instead of the vaccine that was proven, right? Like again, those are the people that, that want to argue. Right. Those are the people that are telling us that we should want to debate them. Those are the people who are walking up to our expert's house and saying, why won't you debate him? Right. Again, those are the people doing that. No, we are not caring for those people there for sure. Exactly. Should at least get a bachelor's of biology. Biology. This guy is the dean of molecular virology, microbiology, tropical. Like if anyone, if you're gonna let me tell you, I, Dr. Barry Pierre, am not stepping on no quote unquote debate stage against this guy right here. So if I, a person who is pretty confident in what I know and don't know, am saying I would not step on stage with this guy right here, like could you imagine like the level of cognitive dissonance you would have to say I'm willing to go step on that stage and not feel like you're going to get absolutely embarrassed. Not feel like it. I saw a clip with who's our guy? I can't think of his name, but he talked about how, this aspect of debate culture, has, been amplified with social media. But the problem is that our experts keep getting sucked into Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? Like he talked about like we're getting sucked into it because we feel like we have to like chase after these people who comment and say the stuff that they say. But once you're comfortable and who you are, like, nah, we know, like, nah, you're not supposed to, you're not supposed to, be on the same stage with me, which I appreciate. So let's see here. Yeah, someone said that. Oh, thank you, appreciate it. Oh, I appreciate. And when I tell you Leela's on point, we love Leela for this. We love her for that, and we still got to get her. I told her we didn't get her on the podcast, so when she got some time, we will definitely keep her on the podcast. Horse dewormer. No, see, so someone's asking why we keep saying horse dewormer. See, one thing I am very good at, right? When I'm talking against anti-vaxxers, I love using their own technology, terminology, right? So y'all were the ones calling ivermectin horse dewormer. We didn't come up with it. Those who actually treat patients with ivermectin know exactly what it's for. But again, the fact that y'all keep mentioning it as horse dewormer, because remember, it used to be this running joke, right? Like, horse dewormer is better than the COVID vaccine, right? Like, that was what y'all were saying, right? So now we're just using y'all words against y'all, right? So again, you have to prove to us, right, why the horse dewormer works better than the COVID vaccine. And again, we have taken that liberty, right? We've taken the liberty and done study after study after study after study. And we can't find no way where we're like, yeah, I would rather have the horse dewormer than the COVID vaccine. Like, it just don't happen. Oh, too funny. The left. The left. Oh man, interesting, especially those who watch the right media, right? The right, which I'm assuming like derives from Fox, right? Again, the news station that just had to like fork out almost $1 billion, right, because of their election law. Like, again, when you ask this, what I always encourage, those who follow me or those who just kind of have questions and they're concerned about where the information is coming from, or maybe they're in debates with anti-vaxxers and they don't really know how to talk to them. I always say, ask the anti-vaxxers, what source are you quoting from? Like, who is your source? Because once you know who the source is, usually the reason why they can't tell you is because they know if they say something like RFK Jr., you're gonna be like, that guy, and then you're gonna spit out reasons why they should not be listening to that guy here. Right? So they usually will never tell you the source. One, because it's usually parroted from someone, like they heard this person, they heard that person say, they heard that person say it, or they don't have any scientific basis in their arguments. So when you don't have any scientific basis in their arguments, there's really nothing, right, you can do, right? Like, there's really nothing you can argue with except you just make this, inflammatory statement and you just kind of hope that it just kind of gets swept under the rug, right? Let me. So again, I think El Jefe kind of came late. He's asking, please tell us why we should not listen to Kennedy Jr. So again, you may not be aware of who Kennedy Jr. is, right? He is a part of the Disinformation Dozen. What is that? This is a group of 12 people who are responsible for 2/3 of the misinformation related to COVID, right? They were spreading it so much that a whole center had to say, we need to holler at and highlight these 12 people right here. He was a part of it. What did he say? 5G was responsible for a coronavirus. What else did he say? Mysterious deaths are occurring around the coronavirus, and he thinks the COVID vaccine killed Hank Aaron Jr. That is your guy, Kennedy Jr., who's running for president. Right? Like, that's the one who's running for the president, right? Like, so yes, we're not going to listen to a person like that, right? like we won't do it. Yeah, because he's not on their level, right? That's why you don't debate him, because he's not on your level. And you don't talk to people who are not at the level intellectually to be having an intellectual conversation. Like, you don't talk to people who do that. Like, you run away from that. Like, that's the last thing you do, right? You're not going to say, I'm going to talk to this person who has, no facts, right? But I'm going to act as if they have facts, because what happens is that when you go on a debate stage with a person like Kennedy Jr., right, you had those on the other side who said, oh, you know what? If this guy, the expert, Dr. Hotez, is willing to stand up and sit on a debate table with this guy, he must be saying something factual. Like, he must be saying something that's truthful, and that's why he's willing to debate. So what do? You don't even give them the time of day. You don't give them time of day. You don't give them no type of energy. You say, I don't care what you're saying. It don't matter. That's too funny. Let's see here. We'll make sure we don't miss any questions. And like I said, this what I know we don't have a lot of questions because this obviously wasn't really the episode to like that. I was spurring any questions. I was just coming on here to let you know us experts are 1,000% okay not debating someone who's not an expert. Like, we are 1,000% okay with him saying, I'm not going to debate him. And this is the reasons why. So in case you may have been wondering, like, man, it was 100,000. Again, like I said, there was Joe Rogan offered 100,000. This guy, what is his name? Ackerman, I think it was Ackerman. I apologize but I think it was Ackerman. He offered like 150,000, right? So a total of 250,000 to any charity just to debate, right? Because again, these are people who are so rooted in their misinformation that they're willing to give money away as a tax write-off just to hear, our expert like totally embarrass, right, one of their people who they thought knew something. Like, they were willing to do that. Thankfully, now, if you ask me, hey, Dr. Barry, if that was you and they weren't going to give it to charity, but they were going to give it to you, would you do it? I don't know. 250,000 sounds pretty good, right? But in the back of my mind, I know that if I sit on a debate table with this person right here, like, I'm going to have to recognize that I'm acknowledging that this guy is some level on my equal. And I think that alone would make me say, nah, keep that money. That alone would make me say, keep that money here. Someone said, comments here are being... No, we're not. Trust me, we're not deleting your comments if we disagree. We're deleting comments if it's clear that you don't know what you're talking about. If it's clear that you don't know what you're talking about, we're getting those comments up out of there. Because that already lets us know, like, okay, yeah, you this is not the stage for you, right? Like, so just almost pretend like this is a debate stage, right? If this is a debate stage and we know you're not at the level to be talking on this stage, guess what? Your comment's out of there. Pew! You're muted. You're muted forever or however. I don't even know how to mute works, but you're muted. Yes, we don't. Yes, I don't think people realize that it's not the jab that you think it is when you say, oh, they're getting people out here disagree. No. We're getting people out there who are spreading disinformation, like spreading misinformation. Like, you're spreading that, you're out of here, right? We don't have to give you that level of energy. Well, that's too funny. Do we have a vaccine for AIDS? Oh, so this is a good question, right? And like I said, if you guys start looking up what mRNA technology is going to be able to do for us from a medical standpoint, like, again, HIV, AIDS, I'm not saying they're coming out with a vaccine next year. I'm not going to say that. But all I know is if the coronavirus vaccine that was done by mRNA technology, like, got y'all going crazy, that's all I got to say. That's all I got to say. Like, it's going to be like if y'all are doing these virtual picket fences around these places off of what the coronavirus and mRNA technology is for that. When y'all see don't believe me, right? I always tell people, you should assume that I don't know what I'm talking about, and you should go do your fact finding yourself. But once you go and again, just do, in fact, you know what? I'll drop a gem. Do a search for mRNA technology and HIV, right? Or mRNA and HIV vaccine. And yeah, just know that. And mind you, I think this is, again, if COVID causes this much discourse, I don't even want to know what's going to happen when we start talking about a vaccine to, prevent, or I don't even know, treat. Like I said, we won't even go that far. Someone said, "Oh, how do we combat people who ignore facts?" So you have to, and this is a good question. I actually like this question here. How do we combat someone who's ignoring facts? Right? 1+1 = 2. Like, you're not saying it. One, you kind of have to understand, like, okay, is this a person that that is willing? Is this person going to be willing to hear a different option? Right? Are they going to be willing to hear, my side of the story? Because what you'll see a lot, especially for those on the other side, they're not willing to hear nothing you're saying. So they can say something like, I saw a couple people, oh, masks don't work. The COVID vaccine doesn't work. And you can turn around and supply them with data after data, videos after videos, books after books, showing you that, masks work, the COVID vaccine works. And they're still like, nah, I don't care. Like those people, you got to just leave alone. You got to say, oh, all right, I see where this is going. And because I value my time, I'm going to go this opposite direction. Right. But those who, you can kind of tell are, they just have their questions. They're inquisitive. They don't know. Maybe their family member scared them off and they're just trying to see, let me see if I get a different opinion. Those are the people where, for them, it has to be almost overwhelming as far as the side of facts, right? You have to show them, information after information and say, and this is what this person says about 1+1 = 2. And what that person says about 1+1 = 2. And once you show them enough information, then they kind of slide over to the side of truth. But those others who are never going to listen to 1+1 = 2, you got to leave alone. Protect your energy. A person again, I tell people all the time, I've been doing social media for a long time, right? So I'm so used to people, bringing me their negative energy and saying I'm a liar. I'm so used to it. It does nothing for me. In fact, typically I will screenshot it and send it to one of my group chats so we can laugh at it, right? So it does nothing for me. These people call me all kinds of crazy names. In fact, I'll probably, now that you say that, I'm probably going to I'll do a video series just off the terrible comments I get, right? Just so you can kind of see the type of comments people leave me. And mind you, no side, right? No social media platform is better than others, right? I get terrible comments on TikTok. I get terrible comments on YouTube, terrible comments on LinkedIn. Imagine, even on LinkedIn, they go in, right? So wherever the social media, Twitter, even Twitter's wild. So trust me, there's no social media where I don't run into it. But I'm so used to it, it don't even bother me. But others, it can. Let's see here. Oh yeah, all right. Yeah, see, yeah. So this is what Kai or Kia. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Imagine getting a PhD in your work and have millions of people disagree with you. That's what's happening. This is what happens on a daily basis, right? You have the foremost experts in what they do, and you got a random Joe Blow with the most significant level of conviction saying that you're wrong, or that you're bought out by big pharma. That's always a big one, right? I had someone shout out to one of my TikTok followers, because you can Google this, right? This is what I love. Right, which I don't think people realize. You can actually Google people who are bought out by big pharma. Right, you can say, I think the search is Medicare payments plus whatever doctor. Right, so when this is done, just do Medicare payments plus Dr. Pierre, and you will see how much money I've gotten from big pharma since I've gotten out of medical school. You'll see it. It's always been. Take it back. It's not always been public data. I think it came out 2015, 2016. So it hasn't been always public data, but it's public data now. So you'll see how much money I've made from big pharma. And there's a lot of doctors who have made a lot of money, right? Trust me, no one's passing their information, because I clearly haven't made any. I have I think it's a total of $30. And that's because I went to two lunches. and two lunches over the past 2016. So let's say 7 years or something like that. And I got $30 out of big pharma. That's it. Right. but here I go, telling y'all, be pro science. Someone says we need to ask the nurse. Someone says that doctors who are selling something are financially vested. You're not. Yeah, that's true. I don't make no. And that's the thing. Trust me. Let me tell you something. Y'all, yeah, those who follow me already know. If you haven't followed me, make sure you hit the follow button. I got no problem with those who are, supported by, Moderna, Pfizer, all these. Like, we need doctors to do that too. Like, I got no problem with it. Again, and I keep saying, those who keep saying I'm bought by Big Pharma, send me the contact info so, like, Moderna can send me a check, right? Like, no one, like, Moderna hasn't sent me a check. I've been telling y'all to get vaccinated since 2021, right? Like, or 2020. Whenever that December hit and the vaccines came out, right? Like, that's just is what it is, right? Y'all think that for us to promote getting vaccinated, wearing masks, social distancing, that someone has to be paying us to do it. Like, a lot of us, right, got into the field because we actually like caring for y'all. Even if y'all don't like care for us, even if y'all don't care for what we actually say, it don't matter, right? I'm gonna still tell you, yeah, you should probably social distance. Yeah, you should probably wear your mask. Yeah, you should probably get vaccinated. Like, that's gonna happen. Like, if you Google my stuff prior to 2020, like, I was doing this with the flu vaccine. I was telling people, hey, you should get your vaccine. You should get flu vaccine. Like, I've been telling people to protect yourself, right? And there's lots of different ways to protect yourself. Like, so it's not new, right? Like, it is. Yeah, you see, I got a lot of more warriors out here saying, like, they've been telling people, right? Like, we're not paid. Like, we're not paid because we want y'all, right, to be healthy, right? We got some selfish ways, right? Because we know if y'all are vaccinated, that decreases the likelihood of me getting it, right? So, right, so it's kind of, I kill two birds with one stone. I protect myself, I protect you, right? But, like, it just is what it is. But, like, the fact that people think we have to have some financial gain, and I understand it, right? Because there's still people, like, mind you, guys, like, I am a board certified internist. I've been a hospitalist physician since 2017. I'm a medical director at 2 different facilities, and there are people who still get on my social media platforms and saying that I'm doing this, right, for money, right? Or I'm doing this for, like, social clout and fame. Like, I could turn off all of these social media platforms and my life is still good, right? Like, that can still happen, right? But, like, people, because they're so used to, again, I understand it. Right? I know the age that we're living in. Like, for a lot of people, like, this is how folks get on. But I can assure you, a lot of, especially those who are in the Dr. Hotez's of the world, like, I promise you, we're not doing this to get put on anywhere. Like, it costs more energy for us to do the stuff that we do. We just love doing it. Right. So even though the anti-vaxxers, and mind you, most of my most prudent people in my lives are anti-vaxxers, right? They love it. It's like I light a match and, like, the moths just keep coming to the flame, right? Like, they love coming to my stuff. I don't know why. I keep trying to tell them, like, hey, I'm not on y'all side. I'm not on y'all side, but they just keep coming. There's nothing I can do for them. Let's see. Dr. Malone forgot to tell you. I can't even, the video is too funny. So, and again, I can't even mention Dr. Malone. In fact, I'm almost sure I did a video on Dr. Malone, but I definitely did a video on Dr. Buttar. And let me tell you, for the past probably like 3 weeks, they've been killing me on YouTube and Facebook. And what happens, right? And this what always happens, right? I talk about an anti-vaxxer. Somehow, some way, the anti-vaxxer gets back in the news for some reason. So then they go to Google them, and here they go. This guy right here saying, like, hey, this guy is an idiot. I didn't call him idiot, but I just essentially said he was an idiot, right? So now Dr. Buttar passes away, right, for mysterious reasons. And on his deathbed, he's telling people it's due to those on the pro-vax side. Right. So now these people have been leaving me crazy comments. Like I said, I might do a video series on TikTok for a little bit just to show you the crazy comments they leave. Right. Like, it is what it is. Oh, yeah. Dr. Malone is definitely vaccinated because he knows better. He's vaccinated because he knows better. Right. He tells y'all don't get vaccinated. Right. But he makes sure he's taken care of because he's not silly. Let's see. Oh, I love this. I gotta make sure it'll be fun. Make sure I follow the funny people who say. Epi Lady says, ask people how infection immunity worked out during cholera and plague. Yeah, like these, and I saw someone talk about natural immunity. Like first of all, let's just we don't even have to think about cholera or plague. Like, how many of y'all are letting natural immunity prepare y'all, protect y'all against HIV? Y'all are not going around, hopefully, not willy-nilly having unprotected sex with people that you know who have HIV and be like, nah, natural immunity got me, so I don't need to protect myself. Y'all not doing that, right? But again, like I said, it's one of those things where people have put the treatment of a disease as the boogeyman and let the disease kind of flourish, right? I got friends to this day. They're probably on their 4th or 5th run of getting COVID. And every time, and I know they're anti-vax, and every time they get it, right, I say, oh, you got COVID again? I say, huh, that's interesting. I just say that's interesting because they know what I'm going to say, right? They're like, Barry, I don't want to hear it. Like, all right, cool. You don't want to hear it. I just want to point it out. Like, it is what it is. That's what it is. And that's what it is, right? We don't want y'all, right, to die from COVID. That's all. So imagine that being a point of contention. Honestly, and I think this is what be confusing us on our side here. We're so confused at why y'all are mad that we don't want y'all dying from COVID. Right? We're trying to rack our brains all right, is it what we're saying? Is it how we're saying it? Is it when we said it? Is it what is it that when we say, hey, you know what? I don't want you really dying from COVID. Right? There's some things you could do to not die from COVID that people are like, oh, you can't protect my rights. And I think that's, again, we're 2+ years out and we still can't figure out where the energy is. We still can't figure out how this energy has been dissipated to us. And we just kind of all right, we understand. Let's see here. Yeah, no. I'm definitely gonna do it. I'm gonna do a few. I think this episode is definitely kind of spirited me. I'm definitely gonna do it right again, and I'll separate it by the different social media platforms. Because again, I wish I could be like, oh, the Twitter folks are the worst, and nah, even I think I was generally shocked, especially when the anti-vaxxer died. I was generally shocked at how much LinkedIn traffic and comments I was getting. I was like, wow, even on LinkedIn, this is supposed to be the professional section here, and they are going in on the comment section, right? So yeah, no, we will definitely do that series there for sure. Let's see. Someone wants me to look at Johnson & Johnson reviews. And I say, hey, if you got a problem with Johnson & Johnson, Moderna makes a great one. Shop people use LinkedIn. No, they I signed up for LinkedIn a long time ago, but I don't use it like you could use it. I know you can't. I know people who flourish off of it. But yeah, nah. But even on LinkedIn, they go in. Yes, and I think this Busy I appreciate it because this is a point that I think is tough for a lot of us to swallow. There are a lot of people, especially our patients, who just aren't. And again, so me, right? When I realize that this is what's going on, I'm trying to figure out okay, all right, maybe it's their source of information, maybe it's their friends, what channels do they watch? I'm trying to figure out why they got to the point that they're at, and then you just kind of figure out, all right, some people are just lost. Some people are just lost, and you just got to shake your head on it. It's gonna be really. Oh, see, that's the thing, right? So this is a common thing we get as well too, right? Can we just agree to disagree? The question is, right? If I'm saying 1 + 1 = 2, if you're on the other side, we can't. What are we doing? I'm saying 1 + 1 = 2. If you have some rebuttal to 1 + 1 = 2, yeah, we can't even. Nah, that's out of there. We can't do it. So that's why that phrase is difficult, especially when you're dealing with facts. Like if we were arguing, all right, what is the best route of trying to protect yourself, right? Whether it be this vaccine versus that vaccine, social distancing, masking, everything else. All right, let's have a discussion on what we think the best route is. But if you're just telling me that it's ivermectin, if you're telling me that the vaccines don't work, the masking don't work, like if you're saying that, then we're already in different directions, right? So we can't even get to a point where like it's something that we can agree to disagree on because we're not even talking about the same thing. And I think that's what tends to happen a lot. The experts say something, and people who are not experts say something that is so far out. And the experts try to do a valiant job of trying to like bring them to the middle to maybe see if we got something we can meet towards the middle. And it just don't happen. It just do not happen. Yeah, human rights are definitely not a disagreement. Yeah, we can't do that. Yeah, not going to happen. So you vaccinate the whole rest for the entire population. Yeah, I mean, if we could. Yeah, we definitely. If we, someone's asking, so should we vaccinate the whole world? Yeah, if it's possible. If it was possible, yeah, that's exactly what I would recommend. Right, and again, it for some reason it doesn't make sense when we're talking about COVID, right? For a lot of people, it doesn't make sense when we're talking about. But if I said, hey, you know what? HIV is spread through the air and through sex and through touch and everything else, and there's a way we can try to prevent it. If you're arguing against it, like what are we doing here, right? Like. Because a lot of people know about HIV. A lot of people, even though I think now a lot of people aren't as scared of HIV because our treatments are so much better. But yeah, that's kind of the goal, right? To get as much people. Because when we talk about, and I'm always clear, when I'm talking about those who are anti-vax, I'm talking about those who can get the vaccine, but just say, like, for their scientific reasons, their quote unquote research reasons, they're not doing it. There are a lot of people in this country, in this world, who literally cannot get the vaccine. Right, for immunodeficiency related reasons, there's medications that they have that can. There's people who cannot, even though they want to, cannot get this vaccine. So I have to give the energy and argue for them, because not only when you take the vaccine, are you protecting yourself and you protecting others, but you're more importantly protecting the people who literally cannot get the vaccine. Right, so I have, like, if I don't argue for them, who will? Because we already know the other side won't. Let's see, fam. Yeah. Someone says, folks in the sub, they say, well, no, it's, and that's why I couldn't understand it. We didn't even talk. See, and I wanted to talk about the sub folks, right? I didn't know how to. The folks in the sub, man. First of all, rest in peace, right? You know, it is what it is. But like when you think about it, right? The amount of checks and balances that had to be missed for them to say, yeah, I'm getting in this boat right here. Let me go. Oh, cookies and cream, favorite ice cream flavor. The amount of safety measures that they said, nah, we're going to ignore. I'm getting into this, like, I guess they say like some mini fan size cocoon and go see the Titanic, right? Like, that's what, again, it ain't that extreme, but that's what folks be doing when they say like, oh, masking, social distancing, vaccine, no way, right? Like, we keep saying, hey, these are all of these safety measures that are out here, and people are purposely saying like, nah, get that out of here. It's my right, right? It's my body. You know how when folks try to co-opt the my body, my choice, right? Like, nah, my body, my choice, right? Like, that's what they're doing, right? Obviously not to the extent of when you're going to go look for the Titanic, but if I'm telling you there's a respiratory virus out here, that if you get this vaccine, if you social distance, if you wear a mask, you can protect yourself from it. And you're like, no. So when something happens to you, right, AKA you get hospitalized, you die, like when something happens to you, of course we're going to look at you like, of course we're going to do that. Oh yeah, right. Really angry when people see it was a scam, so much death and trauma, and they say, yeah. Like, and again, and that's what I talk about, this escaping reality. Like, reality is right there. Like, the numbers are right there. The evidence is right there. And still they look at it like, nah, it's secret government plot, right? To get y'all vaccinated and tagged for whatever. They never know. And when I talk to the conspiracy theorists, anti-vax, I always say like, all right, Like, let's keep going. Let's keep going with that story. Like, what else are they going to do? All right, they tagged us. Boom, I'm tagged. What else now? Like, what's next? Oh yeah, no, that's the thing. They don't, right? And for those, especially like, because I was training residents at the time, and when I tell you, it would be disheartening, especially if you're a medical resident training to be a doctor, and you're going into a situation where you almost know, like, all right, I'm not going to save this patient in front of me, right? It is such, you feel so defeated, and we were having that experience every day you went to work. Every day you went to work, you're like, all right, I'm about to be defeated again. I'm about to lose another patient again. I'm about to tell a family member that their loved one is gone again, right? Like this was happening so often. And that's why it's, when I tell you that people have like totally shut out, blocked, totally act like, oh, that didn't happen, right? So that's why, again, that's why we have to just continue to give this same energy. And we will continue to give this same energy because we know that this folks are just being disingenuous and they're not honest, right? And, you know, we are so, and I tell people, we are so fortunate in the year 2023, so fortunate in the year 2023 to even be talking about like, oh, like that COVID vaccine wasn't nothing. Oh, the OG COVID, we said that before. I've said it before too. Oh, that wasn't nothing. This is mild. Like, we're so fortunate, and we don't even realize how much of a privilege we have to say stuff like that, right? When like this virus in the past 3 years killed more people than the flu did in the past 3 decades, right? Like these are just realities, right? And you know, especially the healthcare workers, we're there, right? And obviously healthcare workers, nurses, CNAs, environmental service techs, physical therapy, respiratory therapy, speech therapy, all, like, you in a hospital setting, one way or form, like, you're seeing it. It's right here, right in front of you. And so many people seen so much of that trauma and like left medicine or are planning to leave medicine because they want nothing to do with that. They want nothing to do with a situation that like something happens again, right? It's just, yeah, it's too wild. Too wild out there. Let's see. All right. Oh, no fighting. We're just we are just calling out the anti-vaxxers who ran up on our guy Dr. Hotez's house because he wouldn't give RFK Jr. the time of day in any stage, regardless of how much money they were trying to like give a charity. Again, and mind you, right? If you want a person to debate, don't tell me you about to give 100,000 to charity. You want me to debate? Give me the 100,000. Like, that's how the conversation should have been started. Like, hey, I'll give you 100,000 to come on my show if you'll debate this dummy over here, RFK Jr. I may listen, right? I may not take it, but I may listen. But don't automatically give my 100,000 away. You don't even give me the option to choose a charity of my choice. Don't give my 100,000 away. And then here go another billionaire. I'm gonna add another 150 to a charity. Like, no. That's not how that works. Okay, we're about currently circulating epidemics. You know, it's interesting now, and I was just talking to a couple of my ID colleagues about this, right? When I, like, you know, when I talked about Dr. Hotez being the Department of Tropical Medicine, I have been very interested to see like tropical medicine and global warming and how we might be dealing with diseases that we didn't even ponder once these ice start melting. Like, I'm a bit of a weirdo in that way. Yes, I'm still concerned about, you know, obviously we're getting towards the tail end of, you know, flu and cold and kind of, you know, peak. And when I say peak, typically you see kind of these ebbs and flows with COVID. So we're getting towards the tail end of that, but obviously still something to be concerned about, especially once the fall comes around. But it's just one thing where, you know, when we're at these quote unquote low points, like I think it's even much more important for us to provide the energy, to provide the education, to be out there screaming from the rooftops, like, hey, something to worry about. Hey, take care of yourself. Hey, COVID's still here. Like, and again, it may seem like a, you know, broken record sometimes, especially depending on the creators that you follow. When you feel like, oh, they're still talking about COVID. Like, yes, we still have to talk about COVID. Because we know CNN's not talking about COVID. We know MSNBC. We know Fox definitely. We know these other places aren't going to talk about it. But we still have to let the folks on the ground know, like, yeah, COVID is still COVID is still here. COVID is still COVIDing from that perspective there. Concerned about the bird flu. It's one of the things where, especially from an avian standpoint, I think what happens, especially during that pandemic where we had, our lowest, I think kind of coincided with COVID vaccine, our lowest rates of vaccinations against the general flu, right? Typical flu, that it won't surprise me that we do have kind of upswings in flu cases because, again, there are a lot of people who are getting the COVID vaccine or getting no vaccine, and the folks who get the vaccine weren't necessarily getting the flu vaccine as well. So that is definitely a concern of our. And is it going to be like significant epidemic proportions? No, I don't think you'll have like such huge swings where like that the bird flu would kind of take over like just kind of the common flu. But it is something where like, oh, okay, all right, it's kind of turning up again. Let's see here. Oh yeah. Oh. See, so we and monkeypox was we talk about how queer community did with monkeypox, giving terror message. Yeah. See, so again, and we're kind of veering, but like when we talk about monkeypox, and we just talk about how much energy people had on monkeypox. One, because there was facial and public disfigurement that you can see from a mile away. So a lot of people had a lot more energy for it. But unfortunately, because of the initial messaging of who's all getting it, which communities are more affected, you had kind of a situation where people are like, oh, well, if you're in the queer community, you got to worry about it, but other communities don't have to worry about it, right? Which we know is false. It was just one of those things where, yes, the majority of it was kind of circulating there, but it didn't mean those on the outside couldn't get it. Right. So, but the messaging was always about, they're the only ones who have to be worried about it. They're the only one. They are the ones who are spreading it. They are the ones who are causing it. So then they have to go on super defensive, right? Because they're having to deal with all of the misinformation that's kind of geared towards them, right? And unfortunately, that's how, especially in healthcare and medicine, that's typically how it works, right? Once the general public thinks, oh, a certain group gets affected, like they just come tunnel vision, like, all right, yeah, it's that group's problem. I don't got to worry about it when we know it's not the case. No standpoint there. All right. Let's see here. Yes, we do love the gays. Interesting. All right, so I'm about to get out of here. First of all, again, I appreciate you joining. Like I said, I apologize. Last 2 weeks we've been out. Out of town at a couple conferences, but we are back here every Thursday evening. We usually start about 9 p.m. To get our game on. Those who want to catch the recording of this, it will be on my podcast tomorrow as well as my YouTube page. So y'all be blessed. Y'all have a great evening. Protect yourself, and do not, again, if you get none from me, remember, we do not give credence to anti-vaxxers because they don't know what they're talking about. Talk to you later. Bye.